I shouldn't be in minor key at all because it's very depressing. I don't want to do that.
The whole game was
perfect.
It was amazing, John.
One
Thank
night
you so
when I
much.
was whiskey.
That was amazing.
Welcome, one and all, to a Red Dead Redemption 2 panel. I'm going to be moderating. My name is Sam Strelitz. I play Mary-Beth Gaskill in this game that you guys are all tuning in for. We're going to go around and everyone's going to introduce themselves, and then we're going to get right to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, take it away. Howard, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Howard Pinhasik, and I play Leopold Struass.
Sean?
Hey, I'm Sean Haberle, and I was the Reverend Swanson.
Go ahead, Joe.
Hey, I'm Joe Armeniox, and I played Karen Jones.
Kaili?
I'm Kylie Vernoff, and I play Susan Grimshaw.
Meeya?
Hi, I'm Meeya Davis, and I played Tilly Jackson.
And last but certainly not least, Mr. Mick.
Hi, I'm Mick Mellamphy, and I play Sean MacGuire.
So this is a really, really exciting panel today. I did a bit of crowdsourcing and I got some questions from the fans. So we're going to start off, one of the most controversial questions and the most repeated question that I got was about Miss Karen Jones. Now, there are going to be a lot of spoilers, so if you haven't finished the game, you know, sorry, but we're going to be talking through a lot of different things, so you can always do one of these. Otherwise, we're just going to go straight for it. So, Joe, in the game, at the end, during the epilogue, John received a letter from Tilly indicating that we may have lost Karen to the drink. But it's a heavily disputed fact, and since there is no actual evidence, we wanted to get your theory on what happened to Karen.
So I get this question all the time, and I truthfully do not have any factual answers on that. And I'm so glad that we're talking about this because it's the number one question I get. I love this character with my heart and soul. And for me, accepting that she came to her demise is just too hard to wrap my mind around. So I like to think that she's a survivor and probably woke up in the woods somewhere and was like, I gotta make a change. And took off to a different town, started what we know as AA. And, you know, we have Karen Jones to thank for that.
I love that. I know that you get that question a lot. So I just wanted to sort of give you an opportunity to speak on that. And Meeya, I'm going to take it to you. Since Tilly is the one that stayed in touch with the Marstons in order to write that letter. Do you have a theory on what happened to Karen?
Karen was my girl, you know, in the game, and I think she went to heaven.
What?
Don't know. My theory is Karen. I think she went to AA too. I think she's better.
Yeah, we had a lot of addicts actually in the gang. You know, one of them is actually the Reverend Swanson. He was addicted to booze and morphine. A lot of people wanted to know, Sean, why does he drink so much?
Oh, why do any of us drink so much? Well, he's out searching for God, right? And God doesn't answer him at all. And he keeps screaming in the wilderness. And so he hopes to try anything he can to reach a close point with God, be it morphine or alcohol or something like that. So maybe he keeps drinking, and hopefully by excess, he'll be able to cross the line and get to ecstasy and be God.
We also had a lot of people asking how the Reverend joined the gang. Any theories on that?
He auditions, and they told me to show up. There. So I don't know.
Nice.
All right, Kylie,
That
I'm going to take the
remains
next
to
one.
be seen. And
Can you say that again?
That remains to be seen, and I can't wait to hear the answer to that.
Yeah, totally. We have yet to find out. All right, Kylie, I'm going to take this one to you because Grimshaw's relationship with Swanson was really interesting. We saw her really have a deep desire to protect him. Do you want to speak to the fans about that a little bit?
I love that question. It's interesting, right? Because she doesn't tolerate people being lazy or drunk or falling down, but whenever the Reverend is a mess and like literally unconscious, throwing up, whatever, her instinct is to protect him. And I think that, you know, the only way all of this works for Susan is if there's some higher purpose. There's order, there's higher purpose, and the morality piece has to be tricky for her. So I think that she desperately needs him to fill his position as the link to some kind of morality, protecting them from all the stuff they have to do to survive. And so she's willing to, you know, cut him a lot of slack because she needs him. And those scenes were always so fun to work with Sean, and also so hard because sometimes you have Micah in there literally kicking him, and when he's down, talking about kicking someone when they're down, Susan just, you know, just wants him to stand up and have some dignity. So yeah, she needs him.
I love what you just said about that, and it sort of brings us to the fact that all of the characters in the gang, they sort of all have fatal flaws, right? And they all sort of ride the line of what is moral and ethical and where their conscience is. And so I want to take this over to Howard because you have a very, very interesting character, and the fans really wanted to know how you felt about playing Leopold Struass, considering he's sort of a special type of evil. You know, he lends money to desperate people and goes into collect. How did that feel, the character like that?
Well, you know, I mean, the one thing that's interesting to me is that I'm probably the most hated person. I get so much hate from people.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. They all feel like I feel like I'm I killed Roger. I'm the one who killed Arthur. So I didn't even know that at the time. You know, when I was doing this, I was responsible for that. But I guess I am. You know what? I liked Leopold. I just thought that he had one purpose, and that was to make sure everybody stayed, you know, got the money. We need the money, and he's heartless in a lot of ways, but he was raised that way and written that way. So, you know, I just had to embrace it, I guess.
I have a follow-up question. The fans are really interested to know if you are really German.
I know, it's so funny. No, I'm not at all, but I play a lot of Germans for some reason. I just actually finished doing a play where I was German. So
That's
it's just,
so
yeah,
funny.
it's odd. I don't know.
Yeah, the accent is flawless, I have to say.
Flawless. Absolutely.
I agree. Speaking of accents, we're going to take this over to Mick. All right, Mick. This is verbatim a question that we got about Mr. Sean MacGuire. So aside from the bullet, what was going through Sean's head in the road shootout?
Aside from the bullet. I think the one thing about that scene is it exemplifies a lot of the innocence of Sean. I think, you know, it's the last thing people expect. It certainly was the last thing I expected. I expected at least another 3 years of work. and I think, to be quite honest, I think it was one of the greatest things about this project from start to finish was like the writing just kind of was just perfect in every way. A lot of what the writers did was just, it was great, and it was as surprising to me as it was to anyone else. Yeah, there was nothing else going through his head. It was exactly the way the scene was set up. You know, it was odd, it was strange. You knew something was coming, and it was built up in a certain way where, you know, what ended up happening was such a shock to so many people. I actually watched one of these reaction videos on YouTube last week of people reacting to that particular scene. And it was the first time I saw anything like that. And to see the reaction that it got from gamers all over the world, in a way, as shocking as it was actually, for me personally, it was actually quite heartwarming because, you know, I think that, you know, Sean, even though it was pretty early on in terms of the whole game, he certainly kind of pulled on a few heartstrings by the time this happened. And it kind of set the rest of the story up in a great way. So yeah, I think that whole scene just kind of showed like exactly kind of who he was, you know?
I totally agree. People were asking though, if Sean had lived, through the end of before the gang sort of dismantled.
Mhm.
Whose side do you think he would have chosen? Would he have allied with Arthur or Dutch?
He would have been. I think Sean is. I do believe that Sean was like on the light side. I think Sean was very loyal to Arthur. I think I have to say, between myself, even personally, I think again it shows just how wonderful the people who at Rockstar are, who got together and created this cast. Like they were brilliant in the work that they did. I personally had like a really great little relationship going on with Roger, even when we were working together. I always felt like I was like his little brother. I actually kind of knew Roger from one or two projects before, and it was just uncanny. Like it was kind of almost like serendipity how we all kind of gelled. And I do think Sean really did look up to Arthur so much. And I think Sean kind of has, I think there was a good streak to Sean where he would have, been probably on that side,
Yeah, I could see that totally. I'm going to take this back over to Joe because we are talking about, now we're going to start talking about sort of the Sean and Karen relationship. We saw little pieces of that, but we didn't get to see really how much, how closely knit you until the death of Sean. So could you talk about the transformation of your character and what happened after his death and where the trajectory of her story went from there?
Yeah, for a character who really does not wear her heart on her, who, she likes you, she'll punch you in the face. Like, that's her style of romance, like, she doesn't want to show any vulnerability. When you shove all that down, and then you have these feelings, like you don't really know how to navigate them, and then you commit to them, and you live out these experiences with this other person, and then it's ripped away from you. I think for her, that, and then with Molly as well, those two things just sort of pushed everything to the edge for Karen. Because for somebody with such a huge heart, you have to shove it all down. You don't want to be vulnerable, because then you're just going to be as weak. And in that world, the world we're trying to portray, there's no room for any of that. So, it's actually all of that toughness and hardness was actually just her covering up all the soft stuff on the inside. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. There's not really romance in the game. I mean, flips and pieces, but like that's kind of like one of the main storylines in terms of a little bit of romance. And I kind of like that it was rough around the edges and sad, It's powerful.
It seemed very real, and it seemed that within the idea that you're in a gang of outlaws and the fact that it's 1899 and you're in the Wild West and these are basically pioneers, like it seemed very real for that time and that place. And that's what I really loved about it. And again, when Sean, does get shot, you get to see how much he really meant to Karen because of, her digression after that. Speaking of relationships and vulnerability, I'm going to take this over to Kaili. Grimshaw was, hard as nails, which she had to be, but that she had a lot of love for the gang and camp members. And someone wanted to know, was Grimshaw so hard on Molly because she still had feelings for Dutch? Tea. Give us the tea.
I've actually thought a lot about this. I think that there's no doubt that Susan feels she feels in her 100%. She feels that she has been displaced by these younger women. Her place in the gang has moved. She used to be with Dutch. She used to have a different relationship to the men, and she's now been sort of pushed aside in those ways. So here's Molly, who has Dutch's attention, but also she doesn't do a goddamn thing around camp. Molly doesn't do a goddamn thing. Have you guys played the game? Every time I see her, I mean, she doesn't work at all. So not only does she have all of Dutch's action, but she's,
lazy.
And then, like we discussed, Susan, the structure and the rules are everything. The only way we can survive is if everyone pulls their weight and everyone follows the rules. And so when she believes that Molly has violated the trust of the gang. She feels that it is her responsibility to take care of it. And it's so interesting that you then talk about what Joe was saying about Molly. I think that changes everything for Susan too. That changes everything for Susan, having done something because she believes it's her duty, and finally having to question it at a level of morality. It's an interesting journey for Susan. But yeah, she's lazy. That's basically it.
No personal vendettas at all. Clearly, this is
Not that she's young and pretty.
You know, Rockstar did such an incredible job of writing very, very complicated characters. And one of the most complicated characters that we don't get to know as much as we would like to really is Tilly. You know, Tilly is a member of the game that has gone through so much punishment, you know. I mean, she becomes an outlaw at age 12, she joins the gang, and throughout the story, you really see her struggle between her past and her present and what could potentially be her future. Meeya, I would love for you to talk a little bit about that and sort of how you got into the character of Tilly, knowing that there was so much trauma that she had dealt with and finding a way out of that.
As an actor, we like a little backstory, you know, about the characters we're gonna have, and like, you know, we get the little blurb and we know what it says. I always say, even in my, you know, my audition, it was what they wanted to see was me be deep in that trauma or that traumatic type of experience, and to see what that life kind of looked like on me, if that makes sense. And that's really all I had to pull from, was that moment in my audition that I said, okay, I did something right. What was it that I did? Because every time I came to set, of course I would have lines and stuff, but like a lot of the things we realized about our characters, we learned pretty much on the day we were there, kind of like what was going on with the lines. We have that type of backstory. But even in the lines I was given, I didn't really have a lot of backstory. Like, you just kind of like listed the backstory that I knew too. So really had to create a different type of victory story for Tilly. And the Vanderlyn thing, not even like what happens to Tilly at the end of the game and like the epilogue. The Vanderlyn gang, I had to create as my little bit of heaven. And because I always think about it as a Black woman now, and then as a Black woman in 1899, I'm like, girl, what in the world? Like, I guess we're protected because there's a lot of them and they like us, but like, are we sure? But I felt like Tilly was like, this is where I'm safe. I found a safety, and I just had to create a world for Tilly to have the angst and the drive, even when she talks to Arthur and we have the special moments and stuff. I was like, I have to recreate the sincerity of that relationship, and think about and imagine what it was like for Roger to save me, for Arthur to save me when he did, because I don't know that. And I created that in my brain, you know what I mean? I
have a follow-up question that I'm just thinking of now, but I just want to know, so as many of you may or may not have known, Meeya was actually pregnant during partial filming of RDR2. And I think, you know, being pregnant, knowing that you're expecting, kind of puts you in a different mental space and makes you think about things differently, right? Did your pregnancy affect the way that you, did you pull from that in any way when you were playing Tilly after you learned that you were pregnant?
Yeah, I feel like it gave me just more of a tenderness and a level of, I have to take care, because I knew I had to take care of what was growing inside of my literal body, but I was like, I'm also here in the camp and I do take care here. And so that's my place, is I do clean, I do this, but I somehow take care of Arthur. And then I somehow take care of Karen. And I somehow make have an interaction with Grimshaw where I'm like taking care of the vulnerability that she possesses, where she now gives it to me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I was a part of like Tilly was a lot of the glue, I think. And she was very liquid and fluid throughout the group. And I thought that
I
was great
love
that they wrote her like that. Yeah.
And she had your face. Like, what?
And she had my face.
Speaking of people who share the exact same faces as their avatars, Howard, we're going to take this over to you. I mean, a lot of the fans were commenting like, "Oh my gosh, he looks exactly like Leopold Strauss," which I thought was like really awesome and great, and is a source of envy, you know, from myself to you. Are there any philosophical or life lessons that you learned from playing a character like Leopold?
Oh, well, that's a tough one. I don't know if I learned anything from it. It's funny though that you mentioned this whole thing about looking like him. I had no idea that I would look just like him, and now I have this beard and white hair. Back then, I wasn't white, but it's amazing how they kind of captured me, which is a little scary when I see myself. You know, you don't ever really know quite what you're going to look like, and then I go, "That's me." Um, but no, I don't know if I necessarily learned anything.
Even
Except,
just getting into the psychology of a character like that may be so different from yourself.
yeah, well, the thing is, you know, it's interesting. I always wanted to soften him up because he was, you know, he's like just ice cold. And I was always encouraged never to go in that direction. So I felt like I just kind of went with what we were directed to do. And they wanted him to be hard and tough. But I love the fact that he does have some vulnerability that you see at the end when things are getting bad there. And he's really scared. And up until then, he was so heartless. So, and I really do love that campfire scene. That's such a wonderfully written little monologue. I think all of us had those, and I think, but I just loved it because it was so beautifully written, and it really did talk about where I came from, and I had a rough life, and that's what happens. I think, you know, you turn into these
Yeah.
heartless, cold people.
Yeah, everyone had because, you know, they're outlaws again, they all had sort of like a very interesting path to get to the gang, which I always sort of found fascinating. And they come from sort of all different backgrounds. But I'm going to take this one over to Sean. We're going to talk about the Reverend real quick.
Yeah.
So obviously this is acting. Acting in a video game is very different from acting in any other medium. A lot of people refer to us as voice actors, but in fact, we were doing full body motion capture. You played a character that is very often struggling between sobriety and being on a substance, whether it's alcohol or morphine. How were you able to capture that physicality when through a different acting medium, right? It's somewhere between film and theater. So how did you sort of mesh all of your training together to get that to be very accurate?
Yeah, in terms of the morphine and the booze and stuff like that. I don't know. I kept hooking into yearning. There was a lot of yearning for answers and stuff like that. So then I guess when I do what I do, it's like a big soup where you build up a lot of different things. So there was a lot of yearning in that soup and different layers of desire and need and things like that for acceptance. So did I do morphine? I actually did. I was actually had an operation when I was very young, and they gave me morphine. And I remember lifting above the bed and feeling like I was on a barbecue spit, spinning around. And so I was able to kind of hook into the memory of that feeling of what it was like to be kind of suspended and moving, and just kind of worked off that. So
I think that's fascinating. I mean, I guess I would take the same question to Joe. You know, Karen is often toward, you know, the middle / end of the game. She's very often, you know, sort of boozing it up because she's dealing with the loss of Sean. Can you talk to us a little bit about the work that you did to sort of be able to fall into that physicality?
Yeah, so I feel like
Sorry, they're doing work around my house. I'm gonna mute myself while you.
I feel like it's so different, like what you're talking about, how the medium is different and the style of acting. It's like, as much as we are told like it's just like doing a film, like it's not. And with those kinds of drunken gestures and things like that, it reads completely differently. Like for me, it felt like I was doing more of a play when that kind of stuff happened, because also in certain, like during certain types of scenes, you have to gesture in certain ways. Like you have a construct in a sense. I can't remember the name of what it's called or anything, but whatever. That's sort of like tech stuff, which I don't want to get into, but I feel like it was more outside in for this kind of stuff, because, you know, we're also talking about Karen drinking at least a minimum half a bottle of whiskey, and that kind of, or moonshine or whatever the heck, you know, she's not having 2 cocktails and being like, whoa, like, you know, so the physicality was definitely outside in for me. I didn't feel like there was going to be a whole lot of subtlety happening, is what I'm trying to say.
Totally. All right, I have a question for everyone that the fans want to know. Sorry if you can hear the construction happening in my background. By a show of hands, can we see everyone who has played the game? If you've played the game at all. All right, keep your hand up if you have won or beat the game or gone all the way through gameplay. Fair enough. I just had so many people that wanted to know. I just thought, okay, I'm going to toss this out there and see who's a, you know, full gameplay person. Well, it's none of us, but we tried. All right, so we're opening it up to people in chat that want to ask questions. Can you send me that again, Andrew? Would you mind? Sorry, guys, I'm shuffling on like between my computer and my cell phone, so I'm getting things sort of as they go along. All right, Mick, if you had to alter Sean's fate in any way, what would you change?
He would end up moving back to Ireland with Karen Jones, and they would have opened up a little distillery, and they would have invented the first ever kind of, you know, non-alcoholic whiskey, I guess, where they could enjoy
Non-alcoholic whiskey. I love that. You should trademark that anyway.
Each other.
All right, and there was a question for Howard. Andrew, would you mind popping that back up for me, please? Technology is amazing. All right.
You guys, my son has joined.
Oh,
Mason.
hi, Mason.
Yeah, so big. Oh, now you're shy. Now he's shy. Yeah.
How old is he?
3.
3. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
All right, you ready for this, Howard? I don't know who this person is, but maybe you do. Have you ever been mistaken for Christopher Heyerdahl?
Christopher, who is that? I know everybody, and I don't know who that is.
Andrew, who is that? Who asked that question?
Christopher Heyerdahl. Is that like Thor Heyerdahl, the guy who went across the ocean in a raft? No.
I don't know. I don't know who that person is, but I was like, maybe Howard does.
No.
So, all right, we're moving right past that one. Okay. Whoa. Okay. So a lot of here we go. Actor from Stargate Atlas and Van Helsing.
Oh no, I'll have to look him up. I don't know.
Oh, Joe has pictures.
Good looking guy. You're in good company.
Oh, my dog is barking. I'm muting myself.
Okay. Speaking of people who look exactly like their characters, Meeya, you have the face of Tilly, which is indisputable. Were you surprised at all when they revealed your character and they didn't really change that much about your facial features? Were you like blown away?
I think the first time that I actually saw it, we were still kind of shooting a little bit. And I remember like looking and I was like, wait a second. I know you guys wanted to see my face, but what is my face on the screen? I was like, wait, is my face going to be on the screen? It's weird because you think about yourself in cartoon form and I just didn't think I would look like that, but it is my face. But I don't get recognized in the street. I haven't made it.
So I have a question for everyone. Mr. Roger Clark just texted me. He wants to know what your favorite Roger Clark experience was and how awesome it was to work with him. So, you know, anyone, just go ahead and pipe up. If the spirit
I
moves
want to
you.
say something about working with Roger Clark. And I know this is probably a little bit, it's probably too earnest for this panel, but the truth is, I cannot get over what a privilege it was to work with Roger and watch him. When someone's number one on the call sheet, the attitude sort of bleeds down from there. And so watching Roger just over years take ownership of being that number one and always make everyone feel welcome, always sort of, without giving away too much, let people know what they were in for. He had such a gentle, everyman way of greeting everyone who was, you know, coming in new. And watching Roger navigate that role, it was such a privilege. I think that Roger Clark is just one of our finest actors, and I love you, Roger. And I'm so glad that I'm getting to say this in front of however many people are watching. So that's my answer.
He wanted to clarify that that was a joke, but we take all jokes seriously on this Red Dead 2 panel. So if anyone else wants to share a Roger Clark experience story, we're here for it. So
Well,
Mick, you look like
I've got a very funny experience with Roger. In the middle of shooting Red Dead Redemption 2, myself and Roger actually worked on a play together for the first festival here in New York at Origin Theatre Company. And it was a wonderful play called Guy Walks Into a Bar, about two barflies sitting in a pub in New York. And it was basically 4 scenes, and in each scene, this unfortunate lad who was looking for love in the wrong places pops in, and me and Roger are playing these 2 different type of barflies in each scene. And the greatest moment of all came in the final scene, where this particular guy walks in on ladies' night, and he encounters 2 Irish American guys who decide that it's not fair that the ladies get free drinks for them on ladies' night. So we dress up as ladies, and I've got some wonderful photographs of myself and Roger in heels and dresses and pearls, and yeah, it's great. And I echo everything that Kaili just said, but that was one of my favorite moments, was going from the Wild West of 1899 to, like, you know, the Wild West village of, you know, sometime in 1989 with Roger dressed up as ladies of the night.
we encourage you to post those online following this Red Dead 2 panel. So thank you so much, Mick.
I will indeed.
And,
I'm out there already, but I'll post them again.
Okay, perfect. Howard, go ahead.
You know, I knew Roger from before all this too. I won't even say how we knew each other, but we had worked together for quite a while before that. But, you know, he was so helpful because, you know, he was there all the time. And there would be times sometimes where I didn't quite know where the scene fit into the whole Gestalt thing. And he was always so helpful, like, to know, okay, this is what just happened. And this, you know, so it was always, he was like a real rock. Not to mention, he actually had to carry me. And I think, I didn't know how we did that, because I think I'm a little bigger than he is, but he hoisted me up there and carried me.
I love that. See, Roger, no jokes with us. You ask and we shall tell you exactly how we feel. Sorry, you guys, this is really intense with this construction in the background. But I wanted to take the next question to Joe. So many people ask how well we all knew each other prior to coming on this game, because we all have such a close relationship afterwards, which is very visible on all social media. Is there anyone that you ran into on the game that surprised you that you knew prior to shooting?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Had a couple friends and quite a few people that had auditioned as well, that I tried to, like, because when I was, you know, helping as a reader and casting while I was in the game, I'd be like, she's amazing, you know, like I'd try to throw, you know, some good vibes that way, etc. Yeah. My friend Jake Silverman played like captain. My friend Sean Parsons was in the game early on. Like, it's amazing how, I mean, we're talking about a community of New York actors, right? And then we're talking about like thousands of us. And I'm sure that everybody else, like, you know, we're all friends now, but I'm sure there's one or two people maybe that you knew at least had auditioned or that you ended up seeing on set, and one guy from Ed from college. And, you know, and there's nothing funnier than like walking out in this goofy as hell outfit and then seeing somebody you haven't seen in 10 years and be like, hi, you know? But yeah, it's honestly, we have a really special community within the game of all of us, which I'm so grateful for. But on a bigger scale, we're talking about people that are doing just the VO, coming in, like Kathy Searle did some VO, like I'm sure everybody knows her. We're talking about a very strong New York thing, which is really special.
Speaking of New York, in the game, Charles reveals that Swanson actually moved to New York City to minister the First Congressional Church of New York.
Yeah, still
Sean,
there.
do you think that he maintained his sobriety?
No. It just got worse. It got fantastic. He got really lit up. And then I'm actually writing a game myself called Hellfire, where Swanson goes from New York, goes across the country and creates this giant cabal, and they just start slaying all kinds of bad people. So yeah.
That's amazing. Did you have a favorite scene that you filmed?
Of course. I mean, I loved yeah. I mean, the goodbye scene with Roger was the best because it felt like I could let go of a lot of the booze morphine stuff and actually talk to Roger and say proper goodbyes to him. So that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that very much. Yeah.
Kaili, you had a very gruesome death in this game that was really hard for a lot of people to watch, especially because it happens so quickly, and then the boys continue to sort of talk over your body. Like, it's just like the guttural noises, the whole thing is just crazy, and it's like a horror film. Were you surprised that it was written that way, or what was your feeling about Grimshaw's death scene?
Well, yeah, it's pretty. So it was very disorienting because, you know, as you all know, we don't shoot things in order. So even sort of trying to place all the relationships when it was happening, but you know, was disorienting. But you're right. What happens is everyone has their guns trained on each other. So when Susan gets shot, nobody checks on her. Nobody comes to see if she's okay. They can't because there's this standoff going on. And, you know, I've told this story, but you know, Rod Edge, our director, he has such a great sense of timing that the crash pad where I fell after I got shot, where I was still lying, was slightly away from the action that was happening. And he was dictating when I would give these like guttural death howls. He was saying, one more, so that, you know, it just kind of was bleeding into that standoff scene, which I think just highlighted even more how alone she is, because she's dying for like a really long time. She's dying for a really long time and all alone and completely alone, which I think, you know, Susan dedicated her entire life to this gang. It's sad. It's sad. I think it's
I have a follow-up question. Do you think there was any sort of poetry to her death as it relates to Molly's death? Because it kind of happens almost the same way to some effect.
No.
Okay, cool.
No, because Susan, you know, Susan is 100% protecting the gang from insider infiltration. It is being attacked from within, and the rat is standing there, and she points her gun. She goes down defending her family. That's what I have to say about that. By the way, I would just like to say that Penny O'Brien is one of my favorite actresses in the world, and I adore her. So I'm giving all this shade to Molly, but Penny's the best.
All right, I have another question for Meeya. A lot of people were asking, and maybe you don't have the answer to this, but maybe you do. Why was Tilly so good at dominoes? Do you have any insight about that? She's like aggressively good at dominoes.
And what's crazy in real life is I have no idea what to do, what the numbers. I don't know. I don't know. I just think maybe her mom taught her, and that's like the thing she holds on to from her mom and her memories. And she got really good at it, but she knows that people like to play her. So she's like, no, I'm gonna beat you. She's really good at it. I don't know how.
I haven't beat her yet as a player. I have not beat her.
Yeah, I don't think that you can. I think it's like playing the computer in chess. Like there's no way to beat Tilly at dominoes. That's just like how they wrote the game. That's part of the code. I'm convinced.
Exactly.
We had another question for Howard. Can you pop that up again for me, Andrew, please? Okay. Did you learn about Strauss's fate during filming? And if not, where were you when you found out about his ending?
You know, for one thing, I haven't played the game. It's horrible to say, but when I found out, I just would hear all this fan stuff that people would be writing, you know, how much they hated Strauss, but he didn't give it up at the end. And I didn't know any of that. You know, it's kind of one of those weird things with this game is that I didn't have a death scene, so I had no idea how it ended. And I just knew I was thrown out of the camp, and I thought that was the end of me. So it's kind of, I think, a nice, touching ending, I think, even though I didn't know about it.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of us didn't necessarily, maybe we had inklings of our characters' endings, but it was sort of something that came out really after the game, you know? All right, my next question is for Mick. Mick, my darling.
No.
Hi. So you play a very lovable character in the game, and obviously we're like torn apart when he passes. I was wondering if there was anything that really surprised you about the fans' reaction. I mean, you did talk about seeing the reaction videos, but was there anything about the fanfare after the game launched that really surprised you?
There seemed to be a little bit of a genesis, if that's the right word, almost, of there was like a path kind of existed after the game. A lot of the reaction to Sean initially was like, he's just pain in the ass. Oh my God, I can't believe I just spent 3 hours trying to rescue this guy and he doesn't shut the hell up and he's so annoying. And then over the course of the kind of weeks after the kind of game came out, people seem to kind of fall in love with him, you know, and I think that was really endearing. And again, for me, it goes back to the writing of the character. I know we've kind of touched on how we feel that the game is, but I really do feel like that this game is in its entirety a piece of, for me, it's a piece of theater. It's a very kind of lovable and living thing. I think again that so much of the talent of like the people involved in this game, like behind the scenes, really kind of shines through as well. And just seeing like how people kind of evolved their opinion of Sean. I think Arthur has a line in it, how, you know, he was like an annoying little brother to him. And I think a lot of the fans kind of took that on board when it came to Sean. And that's something I really kind of enjoyed kind of seeing, really, you know. And I think, you know, there was a little bit of a responsibility in Sean's story, even like when what happened to him, it kind of set a lot of the rest of the story up. And in a broader sense, I do think you touched on it already, and a few people have mentioned it. A lot of video games. I'm not a big gamer myself, but of course I've played this, and I do like, you know, playing video games. But a lot of video games, a lot of time you're playing these characters that are perfect in every way, and they're superheroes, and they've got these powers. I think the most beautiful thing about this game as a whole, and it's something I've certainly discovered with Sean, but everyone is, it's just like a normal family, you know, warts and all, and problems and all. And I think for me, the most surprising thing is just how everyone's really embraced every single character. And, you know, even just seeing how they've kind of taken Sean like on board has been like a really wonderful thing. For me, the greatest experience of Red Dead Redemption 2 has been seeing how it's been received by the community and fans in general. And the fact that I've been opened up to this world of gamers and cosplay and stuff like that has been a real treat and gift for me. You know, I've certainly expanded my headspace because of it, you know.
Totally, which brings me to the girls. All right, ladies. I have a question for all of you, because I know that I was really surprised when the game first came out. You can hear them going nuts downstairs, I'm sure. When the game first came out, people loved the part where all the girls pile into the carriage and go into Valentine, and they're singing this song. And all of the songs around the campfire that everyone sings. What did you like? Do you remember shooting that, and how did you feel shooting that? And were you surprised that that it got such that people fell so in love with that song and wanted to talk about it so often?
I feel like on that day we had a lot of fun, and I think you can just really see how much fun we're having in the back of the wagon on the way to Valentine. I just remember like cracking up, because we were trying to figure out the notes on which to sing and like the beat on which to sing. It was an actual, like, I remember crying laughing because we could not figure it out. And they were like, yes, keep doing that. Keep with that. I'm like, are we sure this is a good take? Like, are we, because I'm out of here. I'm cracking up now. I'm out of character. This is Meeya laughing. That's how I felt. That was such a fun day. That was a really fun day.
Joe?
That was like early on too. So I don't know about everybody else, but I'll be completely transparent. Like half the time I didn't know what was going on because, you know, we're not given any information. Like, so that early on, I was still like, where are we going? Who am I? Who are you? Like, you know, because we had such secretive scripts and everything, which made it really interesting. But that day was, yeah, that was a riot. I think we had the Indian catering that day. It was really good too.
Yes.
And I would just say that scene gave me the most FOMO of anything. When I started, and that scene came on, I was like, oh, how dare they? How dare they? I couldn't believe you were all in that wagon singing songs and I didn't even know about it. I was really sad.
I wasn't having it with Arthur not letting us go somewhere, you know? I was like, y'all, we're gonna get this done. We're going to do something, because we were all bored out of our minds. Remember in camp, we were like knitting all day and we just needed something to do.
And the place is called Valentine, and I know that Mary-Beth had some grandiose idea of what that place looked like and was very surprised by what it actually was. But Kaili, there's another question for you. Was there anything specifically that surprised you that the fans really clung on to? I know that a lot of people love Grimshaw telling them when to shower and sort of beating Arthur up in camp, but was there a specific scene or moment that people relay to you that they love that really surprises you?
That would be the one that I would say before you listed. I would say that was the one. I remember at some point someone telling me Susan's the only one, so Susan's the only one that can make him bathe. And I thought, well, it's kind of a weird thing. But I remember how hard we worked on those scenes. We worked so hard on those scenes. And I'm not surprised that, I mean, I was surprised that the fans were so interested in it. But when I think back at how much time we spent on what seemed like such a small task, for that one, Rod, the incredible director, he had such a specific idea of how that would go. I mean, think about the fact that someone smacks Arthur across the face and doesn't get shot. Instead, he laughs. And we had to work so hard on that. Like, what is their relationship? You know, is it sibling-like? Is it maternal? Like, what exactly is that relationship and how long they've known each other? And I think that moment where she threatens him, where she actually hits him, I mean, it happens a few different ways depending on how high your honor is. I don't know. However you see it, it's a few different ways. And we really finessed that. Roger and I spent a long time on that. Roger loves when I talk about this scene because he loves remembering. Someone asked me recently if I hit him for real, and I said no, and Roger was like, yeah, you did. I said, I did. I would have sworn that I did like a stage smack, and he said, oh no, you hit me pretty hard. I have no memory of it.
That's so funny. I remember we were filming one of the scenes. I think it was me and Joe. We were filming maybe, oh gosh. Okay, I'm going to ask this question instead because it's popping up and these are popping up and going away and I want to get to them. But this is for Joe anyway, so this is perfect. When you play, if you've played the mission where you're in Valentine, what is your favorite route to go? The harlot or the damsel in distress?
So for me personally, I prefer the harlot. However, I think within the game and in that world, it probably would have been a little smarter to go with the damsel in distress, you know, like Karen's tough and sexy, but she can also be like sweet and vulnerable looking because she's, you know, she's got different things about her. And I think that would be, I feel like you should like get more points or something if you play the damsel in distress. But
well, for that specific mission, because it's the bank robbery and you're in the hat and you're in that beautiful dress, I mean, it's kind of hard to play the damsel in distress because you look so much like a boss.
Yeah. And she's the one who like has the idea for this. Like, this is all her. Like, she gets them on this. She's like, no, we're going to do this. And then, you know, afterwards, God, there's nothing more fun than like imagining that you've just robbed a bank and being like, hell yeah, you know, like, wouldn't that be fun if we could like still do that and get away with it? Maybe not.
Totally. But what I was going to say before the question popped up, it's so loud in here, I'm so sorry, you guys, was, you know, you and I had a scene and I remember filming it and it was we were taking it so seriously and we were taking this dialogue like it was really dramatic, you know, because we're putting ourselves in this 1899 atmosphere and the gang's falling apart and and I remember Rod came in and he was just like, no, you're just having a laugh. We just completely had to switch the thing on its head. And I think that was one of the most interesting things about, you know, filming this game. The fact that they had such, you know, Rockstar already knew very well where they wanted things to go and how they wanted to direct it. So even when we were filming out of sequence, it always made sense, you know, when they redirected us, even if we didn't know exactly in that moment why that was happening. Did any of you guys have an experience like that? Where you acted in a scene, you're like, what is she talking about? Did anyone else have an experience where you read the script, you went to go do the scene, and it got redirected in a very surprising way that you didn't even realize the intention was?
Every day.
I'm like, there was this one scene, and Nick is like, every day.
Every day I showed up, I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Was there anything that really sticks out in your mind where the dialogue was so different from how it was actually you ended up playing it?
I remember my first day not knowing what the hell was going on. I didn't even know it was set in the Wild West. I was given this script and I was like, here you go. I'm like, what? My audition was nothing like this. Actually, I told a story to a couple of friends recently how I think it was about maybe a year and a half into me working in it when a couple of people came to a pub that I owned. I used to run. And Ben was there, Dutch, and I'd been working on this thing for like a year and a half. And it's so funny because now it makes sense, but in Sean's way, which was my way at the time, I'm not totally method, but I actually asked Ben, I was like, so like, you know, is Sean part of the gang? And Ben turned around, he's like, yeah, like, you know, Sean's part of the gang. Like, oh, and then it was so strange because then when I would actually go in and work from then on, I was like, oh, I'm part of the gang. Like, and I felt home all of a sudden. And in a way it brought me to it just added another little layer. And it was just the wildest experience. So that's to answer your question, yeah, that's kind of how I
I
felt about it.
think I had the same experience as Mick, where I came into it because I did do a lot of the chores. I thought I was like the help, basically, but it was like, oh, I'm a part of this. And it gives you a different like a stature, you know what I mean? Like you walk with a different type of grace and you feel like, oh, I can make a couple of decisions. I can talk back a little bit harder because I'm not going to be reprimanded like a second class citizen. I'm a part of this family. Yeah, I had the same experience.
Totally. All right, we have 4 minutes left, and I want to make sure everyone knows where to follow you all on the social medias and all of that jazz. So we're just going to go through and get that out of the way, and let us know if you're working on anything upcoming that we can stay tuned for. We're going to start with Howard. Where can we follow you on the socials, and anything coming up?
Well, I'm too old for all the social media stuff, so I still don't even know half the time what I think I'm how5555 on Instagram, I think, or maybe that's Twitter. I'm so bad, I don't know, but it's Howard Pinhasik. I think you could find it somewhere.
We'll Google you.
Yeah, you can Google me and find out. No, unfortunately, I think with the pandemic and all, I don't have much coming up. I did one of those Zoom plays, and that was kind of fun. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Hopefully, it will change.
Totally. Sean?
Me? I guess Haberle Sean on Twitter. Then there's a movie coming out in November called Talking to God.
How fitting.
I know. Well, I have I'm not sure. I have a decent part in it. It's a comedy. It's a lot of fun. It's going to be on Netflix or something. I'm not really sure what it is, but I'll promo it when I figure that all out.
Perfect. Joe?
Yeah.
I am at I'm Joe Armeniox on Instagram and at Joe Armeniox on Twitter. And I have a nice chunky guest star coming out on City on a Hill in season 2 with Kevin Bacon, and hopefully that'll get into there on Showtime soon. So, but yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else. I don't really pandemic life.
You're also remodeling a whole home.
Yeah, like follow her on Instagram and you'll see that she's juggling like 50 different things. Yeah, she's like building a house.
It's
HGTV.
that actually has more following than anything else I think I've ever done. is remodeling this house. Oh my god. Yeah.
Kaili, where can we watch all of your stuff, and where are you on social?
So I'm at Kaili Vernoff on Instagram and at K Vernoff on Twitter. Where can you watch all my stuff? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like all of you. I think I have some things coming out, but it's hard to know when. Everything is sort of changing. Our business is sort of on its head, but I promise to post about it when it happens. But I do host a podcast, and we are just digging into season 2. I'm really, really proud of it. So it's called Let's Play by the Gamers, and it's The Game Hers, HERS, which is a wonderful new platform. They're dedicated to elevating the voice of women in the gaming space. And so check that out. I've interviewed some of you, and hopefully I'll get to interview all of you at some point. I'm really proud of it. So yeah, find that wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you, Meeya.
I am Meeya Davis on Twitter and Meeya Davis on Instagram. I actually have a horror film coming. I don't know when, because with COVID, you just don't know, called No Fear. So when that's going to be out, I'll let everyone know. There is a movie on Hulu that I was in called Premature. Everyone should definitely check that out. So yeah.
Take it away, Mick.
It's Mick Mellamphy, at Mick Mellamphy on Twitter and at Mick Mellamphy on Instagram. It's really great having a really strange surname that nobody else can name. So, there you go. That's simple. I mean, yeah, COVID Palooza has thrown a spanner into the works. Not much, I'm living with that. I do. I'm a member of the Irish Repertory Theatre here in New York. Who it's my spiritual home. They're the most wonderful people, and they've actually really kind of shone a light on theatre throughout this pandemic. And they've given, like so many artists all over the world, have provided emotional triage, you know, along with the wonderful essential workers in our hospitals and in our grocery stores who've, you know, given so much triage throughout this pandemic. Our artists and our theatre companies have done all that. So I'd encourage everyone to follow @IrishRep on Twitter and Instagram and anywhere you find them. Hopefully I'll get this one-man show by Ronan Noon, The Smuggler, up and running there as soon as we can open the doors again. And all you guys that are here today on this panel are invited, and we'll have drinks afterwards. And bring Mason along. He's not having drinks, but you know.
And I'm Sam Strelitz. You can find me @Sam Strelitz on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, if you're a crazy person like I am and addicted. But just to be clear with everyone, Google all the people on this panel. They're being very, very modest. I would even venture to say they're being too modest. You can watch them on Netflix, on Hulu. They're in movies, they're in TV. There is a backlog of content that you can get of these amazing actors. So I really encourage you to go ahead and look them up if you haven't already. It's really incredible to speak with all of you today. Thank you so much, PAX, for hosting this. It's really, you know, in the age of COVID, you got to do things virtually. So I hope you enjoyed our mini house tours. And we really just appreciate coming on here and the special appearances by some of us who, you know, we haven't talked about Red Dead before. So it's really an incredible moment to be able to talk with everyone. Thank you, Pax. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everyone that was on this panel. Christina, iPad1, I see you. I don't know who that is, but welcome. I don't know how to sign out, but this has been a lot of fun.
Outlaws for life.
Say cheese. I love you guys so much. It was so great, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So good to see
Thank
you all.
you.
Great to see you guys. You just made my heart grow an extra couple of inches.
Aww, this was really fun. Can people still see us?